Okay, so good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining today's class. Today we are going to begin the CSS. We have been learning HTML, and at this point, I believe that we've covered pretty much everything that we need to know, and we have really covered everything about HTML, maybe with the exception of a few things that I'm probably not aware of right now. So the point is that when it comes to HTML, mostly there is only one way of doing things. Many things if you want to have a table, there's just one way of doing that. If you want to have a paragraph, you need to have a paragraph tag. If you want to have a heading, you just need a heading tags, right? H1, H6. So many things in HTML, there's just one way of doing it. But when it comes to CSS, you can do the same thing in so many different ways. And when that happens, you have a lot of choices, right? And when you have choices, then your life can become difficult because you don't know which way to go. Right? But that also can make us more creative, right? Because everybody can be creative and do things the way that they want. And you can have a different result as a result of that. So today we are beginning the CSS, and there are some foundational knowledge that we have to look at. We need to understand what CSS is, the idea behind it, and all of that. So we all understand that the web page, we have the content of the page, and HTML is used for that. But if you want to talk about the presentation of the content on the page, then you think of CSS. So this is for the presentation, it's for the beauty, it's for, everything, the look and feel of the page. If you say that this page is beautiful, the word beauty, once you mention beauty, you are thinking about CSS. CSS is what's going to give you the ability to make the page beautiful, add colors, beautify the content in any way, shape, or form. So that being said, let me just, we're going to go through some of the foundational knowledge that we need to have. I have a lot of notes that I'm going to borrow from. We're going to go through, I'm going to start with one of them, and then we're going to hopefully cover everything that we need to know. Because CSS is very huge also, just like HTML, but there are some foundations that we have to understand before we can be successful. And I have this note over here. It's one of the notes I have opened. 1 second. I'm trying to lay some little foundations here. Okay, so there's one PDF that I don't have opened. I'm gonna open it now. Okay, so this one here, tutorial point, as we know, we use the PDF to learn the HTML, and we are going to be using the tutorial on CSS to learn CSS, right? And look, we have 183 pages over here. And the reason I want us to use this tutorial is that I don't want us to miss crucial things, right? There are important things that I don't want us to miss. So we'll just go through this tutorial, and then I'll just explain the concepts as they come up. But also you can see that this is very, very big, right? Which means that they try to cover pretty much everything, right? And I don't think we need to cover everything in CSS. Many of them you can find out. Once you have the foundation, many of the other things you can look up yourself and then, just use them. So that being said, I'm going to be skipping a lot of things in this PDF because of what I said. But I will make sure that you have the foundational knowledge. And then with that foundational knowledge, most of these things you can easily do them by default, even if I don't teach you, or even if we don't go through it. Let me create the files that we're going to be working with. So we have, this has been our working directory. Directory is the same as folder, right? And we did HTML stuff in this folder here. images that we used in our code, we have them here. These are just folders and then files in them. And these are projects that we're going to be doing. We needed to learn the CSS before we can be able to do some of these projects. So we are here, we're going to get to them. So I have created this folder for CSS, which we are beginning today. So I'm going to go into this. I already have some stuff here that I hope that we can be able to do by the end of tomorrow. I'll just show you some of them. I'll just show you this one here. So it's opening in the other window. So this is a small project that I just did, just using CSS. It has the header information. It also has a banner, right? So global tech mastery, some buttons here that we can click on, which hopefully we can be able to do this by the end of today. If not, definitely tomorrow we should be able to do this. So this is one thing that we are going to be doing either today or tomorrow. And then another project is this very short exercise, I would say. So I'm gonna open this up so we see it. Okay, so this one is also very, very simple. If you see the code is very simple, but yet very, very profound, right? The ability to design something like this, right? We have the sidebar, and then the rest of the, of the elements, whatever it is, we're gonna know. So by the end of today, hopefully we can do this, and then after that, we're gonna try to combine the two. So I already have it combined over here, but I might just give it as a homework, combining the two. But the point is that as soon as we finish with the CSS, we should be able to design any web page that we see on the internet. Any page that you go on, we should be able to design it. I'm talking about the designing of the page. So if they are doing any logic over there, the backend development that we are learning is going to take care of that. And even when we start with the JavaScript, we're going to learn those as well. So okay, so this actually, 1 second, please. Let me open this. I thought I opened it, but I might have opened something else. Yeah, so you see the two, there's very, very simple projects that I showed you. Maybe I shouldn't even call it a project. I should just call them exercises. So the first exercise is at the top, and the second exercise is at the bottom. Then we can keep adding anything that we want on this page. But as you know, we're gonna build complicated pages also. So this is just very, very, the stuff we're gonna do at the very beginning. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna close this. So I'm gonna create a new file that we're gonna be working with today. You click on this icon here, then you can create a file. What name should I give this? CSS day one. Day one. I'm gonna .html. And then the styles, this is the HTML. CSS always goes for the HTML. We want to beautify the page. We need to have content to beautify. So let me also create another file that's gonna be the CSS code in there. So, HTML, we always end it with .html. CSS is gonna be the same. So I'm gonna call it CSS underscore day one .css. So for CSS code, you have to end it with that. That's crucial. So once we do that, we have the two files that we're going to be working with. Let me bring up this HTML. Let's write some code here that we're going to be using. We can just, we don't always need to do this, but I'm just doing it anyways. And what can we have in here? We can have the head section. We don't always need to have it, but I'm just putting it there in case we want to put something in there. What other content can we have here? The body, right? Section. Mm-hmm. So we have the body, and then we can have the footer, but you know, if we are not gonna do anything in the footer, there is no need having it. But for now, I just want to put it here. Yes, we have all the sections that we know of. Definitely the body, we need to, let's put some H1 tag in there. H1 tag, and we can put any content in it. I want to just put global tech mastery. But we're gonna be beautifying this as we go. And I also want to add a div. I want to add, well, let me add, say H4. We just want to have elements that we can style. Just add another element here. Say H6. H6 is fine. Just change it. Now let's add a few more, say paragraphs. Let's add a paragraph tag. Actually, I don't have to copy that. I can type it, paragraph. Now I showed you guys how to get content, dummy content for your when you're designing a page. Do any of you remember that? Where do I get dummy content for this? I showed you a site that you can go. Do you guys remember the name of that site?
Is it the Tech Mastery site?
You want to get dummy content, right? Dummy content. Instead of just writing gibberish, just you want dummy content. It looks like English, but it's not exactly English. It's Lorem Ipsum, whatever, everybody and how they pronounce this. So Lorem Ipsum. I showed you this place. Lorem Ipsum. You can say Lorem Ipsum generator. It's the site, you know, you go there, it's gonna generate text for you, right? But if you are designing a website or software, sometimes you don't have the content that you want to use right now. So the content will come from the business team. The business team, the marketing team, they're gonna tell you what text you should put there. So software developers, we don't always come up with this, right? But for the purpose of development, you want to have some dummy tests like this. Because you don't want to leave the place empty, right? You want to see how things are going to look on the page. So please, let's not forget this, right? So you just copy anything from there, any amount that you want, and you paste it here. So I see my computer slowing down, but I hope that it gets better. So going to the site is one way of doing this. I'm gonna show you another way of doing it. This is paragraph. Yeah, can have another paragraph, it's all right. So you can just say lorem, you just type lorem, and then you specify the number of words that you need. So 5, you hit enter, and it gets you 5 words from that site. So you don't need to go to the site anymore. Let me add another content here, say div, another element, div. This div, we can have other divs in it. Because divs is, like I said, it just creates a, this one creates a section. You can also use it as a paragraph tag, right? You can just put text in here. So let me put lorem, say 15. I want 15 words in there. Yeah, so this is good. Actually, this is too long, but it's okay. I'm gonna add another one. See, all I'm doing is I'm creating elements that we're gonna style. I'm actually over creating them, but probably this will be the last one I'm gonna do. So let me just change this to div. The point is not to learn HTML. So okay, we have this. Let me save it. Control S will save if you're using Mac. Windows S will save for Mac, and then Control S will save for Windows. So let's see what this will do. Okay, so this is what we've done. Very, very bland page. So let's begin the CSS course. I want to begin with this this slide over here. Because this one is a very good summary for us. That's why I want to begin from here. After going through this, once we get back to the main PDF for the course, most of the concepts here, you would have seen them already. So, so CSS, the meaning is what? Cascading Style Sheet. Cascading. So cascading is a technical word, and we're going to understand what it means very soon. Cascading Style Sheet. So I'm going to move to the next page. What is over here? So it is responsible for the presentation of the website, the beautification, as we talked about. And if you want to create a CSS file, you have to end it with what? .css, like this. And after you create it, you have to link the file with the main HTML code. So now we created this CSS file over here. We're going to put CSS code over here. But if you want to use this code that we put here in this HTML, we have to link this file to this one. And the way we do it is here. You can look at the syntax. You do it in the head section. This one has to go in the head section. I'm going to try to position this in such a way that we can be able to see both places at the same time. Okay, so in the head section of the HTML file, you have to create a link tag. This is not the first time we are seeing the link tag. It opens and then closes like this, but you need to specify some things over here. I'm gonna ask you to tell me what the name of this are. What is the name of this? Assuming this is a tag, HTML tag, and I'm specifying something like this, what would you call this? And I'm talking about vocabularies, right? The vocabularies of HTML.
Is it element?
Actually, this is an element. The whole of this is an element.
Oh, attribute.
Attributes, thank you. It's an attribute. What is this one here? A tag, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the content, right?
Right.
And then this is the closing tag, opening tag, and if you add all of them together, we have an element. So style sheet, this one means, actually the name of this is the relationship. We want to link another file to this one. So they are telling us what is the relationship between this new file that you are bringing in. And so this one is a keyword. A keyword means that you don't define it. The computer already knows what that means. So you are telling the computer, the file that I'm bringing is a style sheet. In other words, it's a CSS file. So the other attribute that is important is the href. Do you guys remember what the href does?
Yes.
What does it do?
It links another page with in HTML.
Yeah, so it allows you to link something, right? Linking. You want to create a linkage. Like if you say, if this was a button, you could click on it and it will open, it will go to another page on the internet or another website on the internet. So that's how you do it, href. So now I'm pointing, this one is pointing to the location of the CSS file that we are going to use. If you do it this way, this is good enough, but we can see that there is another property, another attribute over there called type. The type is gonna kind of specify what the content of the file is going to be. You don't really need to specify it, but it's gonna contain text, and then CSS code. Okay, so that's it. We just created a link to this page. So if I save this, of course, we haven't put any CSS code in here. Whatever code that we put here, the code is going to be available to this file. So yeah, that's all that they are saying on this page.
I have a question. Is there a name for like the style sheet text, the ones in red? You know how like the other ones are called attributes? Do they have a name for the ones in quotations?
So this is a value.
Value, okay.
Yeah, so the attribute and the value. For instance, for a human being, you can say an attribute of a human being is the age of the human being. So if you say age, you need to tell me what the age is. So the actual age is the value for that attribute. So my height is an attribute, but what is the height? You have to tell me maybe 6 feet. So that's what's happening here. Attributes, they always have a value. Is that okay?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, so now we keep moving. Let's go to the next page. Okay, so now the basic CSS syntax. Like I said, whatever you want to do in tech, you always want to know the basic syntax. What is the bare minimum? What do I have to do to make things work? Like even if I don't remember anything, what do I have to remember first? So if it is coding, it is going to be the hello world. If you can make the code print hello world, then you are ready to start, right? It means that every other thing is working. So HTML, we know that you need to have a tag, body, all these things, the basic structure of the HTML. Now we are going to look at the basic syntax of CSS. So this is the way the syntax looks like. There is something called the selector, and then there is something called property, and then value. This is all it is. So now this property that we see here, this property is the same as attributes in HTML. So when we did HTML, we saw that the tag, the content, and all of the elements, we can add attributes in order to get more information, right? Add more things to the element. And some of it could be color. What are some of the attributes that we have in HTML? The color, the background, all of these are attributes. Now, those attributes, they become properties in CSS. So you specify the attribute and then the value here. And then the next crucial point is the selector. The selector is what element is this style going to apply to. So like say you are saying that property say color, you give a property called color, and then you say red over here. You have to tell the code which of these elements is this style going to apply to. So you have to select it. The way you do it is by selecting it. So you can say the body. I want the body of the HTML. If you specify color here and a proper attribute color and a value here, and then you say, oh, I want this style to apply to the body of my document, what do you think is going to do? Let's say we select color. Color is going to, so this is the body, right? This is the body. So everything inside this body is going to get a color of whatever that you specify here. So say you want to specify the background attribute, and you want to set it to an image or a color, say green, but you have to tell us. So I want to change the background of body to this type. Do you guys understand what I'm trying to say here? So yeah, he gave, an example here. So Poppy can, so So Poppy is not an element, but it is a class. It can also be an ID, which we are going to look into. So what is important here is being able to select the element that you want to apply the styling to. So there is something called CSS selectors, selecting elements in CSS. That's a very important concept that we need to understand. So there are many different ways of doing it, but actually there are three main ways. You can select it by calling the name of the element. So if I say the body, let's see, there may be examples that we can just practice. So you can make a selection on this page by calling the name of the element or the class of the element and then the ID of the element. Do you guys remember the ID and the class attributes of HTML? You know, we talked about many attributes, and I said that we have the class and then we have the ID. And I said something about the class and the ID. If you don't remember, don't worry. We're gonna mention it again. Let's go to the next page. So let's try this code. Body. He's saying that I want the body of the HTML document. Select the body element and then change the background to the color green. That's what this code is doing. So let's just copy this and execute it in our code. We already linked up the two files, so we just have to paste this here. Sorry, so the selector, the element that I want to change, and what do I want to change? The background to green. And then, you know, these curly brackets, that's the body of all the styles. You're gonna put every styling that you want to apply to the body within these curly brackets. So as soon as you finish with a style, you end it with a semicolon. But this is the basic syntax. So let's save this and see what's gonna happen. So now let's go back here to the file and see. Go view in browser. Yep. This is what we just did, okay? So this is the whole body. Remember, there is no header here. So everything here is gonna be the body, the whole page. And we are saying that we are selecting the body of the document and we are changing the background. This is an attribute that we've seen before, right? And then we are changing this to green. Of course, we can change it to any other color that we want. And if we save this, refresh that. Yeah, I change it to a different color. So we're gonna learn about different ways of specifying a color in CSS. So for now, let's just focus on selecting the body of this document and then changing the background color to whatever color we want to specify, right? So this is the body. So let's keep going. I think he's gonna ask some questions. So now there is a question here. If I want to turn the background of all paragraphs red, if I want to turn up the background of all paragraphs red, how am I going to do that? So, right, this is a question I want you guys to answer me. Remember this code. I want to put the code side by side so that it will be easier for us to see both. 1 second. Let me also collapse. 1 second. You see what I'm trying to do? I want to collapse this whole section. If you click on this, it's going to create two windows for you. The colors are here. And then the HTML code is here. So again, these are too long. Let me just make them shorter. These are way too long. I want to make sure they fit and we can see them. Oh my God. See, my computer is slowing down, guys. I am very sorry for that. Okay. I'm gonna go back, say, just cut some of them out. Delete. Then maybe this one too is too long. Let me just Let me also make this shorter, because the whole point is just demonstrating how the CSS works. And there are techniques, right? CSS comes with techniques. Once you get the techniques, man, you can do anything. You can create a lot of things. You can make your web page very, very beautiful. But most importantly, the design is going to come from your boss or the business team or the UX designer. He says, I want the design to look like this. Then you have to design it for them using the techniques that you know. So yeah, now we can see this, and let me also make this slightly bigger. So what we have done here, we selected the body element, and then we are setting the background of that to any color we wanted. So let's use a color that we are familiar with. We use green for green like this. So now there is a question on the screen. If we want to turn the background of all paragraphs into red, how are we going to do it? Do you guys understand the question?
Yes.
Can somebody give it a try? We want to change the background of all paragraphs. First of all, we have some paragraphs over here, right? So what is the syntax? You have to select the paragraphs first, right?
Would it be the P?
P? Okay. The name of just saying the name of the element. So you don't even need to think too much. See, what is the name of this element? It's the body. So
Body.
Now, what attributes do we want to change? Background. And they say we should change it to what color? Red. Type red. Now you save it. And if you already have the page up, you can just refresh. Otherwise, you can just, yeah. Can you see what just happened? So these are the paragraphs. We just changed the background to that. Okay. So let's see, there are more questions, and I want somebody else to try to answer it. Okay, yeah, so he gave the answer here, which is good. But there was no other question. So I'm gonna ask one question. If I want to change the background of H1 headers to say to blue, how am I gonna do it? I want somebody else to try this. I want to change the background of H1, the H1 element, or all H1 elements in the document to blue. So, I mean, this is how you comment in CSS. So if you want to type a comment, say changes the background of all H1 tags, H1 to blue. So somebody want to try this? Simon, do you want to give it a try? Hello, Simon, are you muted? Okay, so let's not say that, oh, I may not have seen the videos, and because of that, I want to understand. Today, we are learning something completely different right now, right? You have
Ibrahim typed the answer in the...
Okay, thank you.
It says H1 background blue.
Okay, so H1, and then your curly brackets, background blue. That's it. That's it. Okay, save. Okay, so that's it. Let's save it and see if that works. Save, just refresh that. What's gonna happen? Yep, that is the H1 tag on the page. You change the background to blue. So I know the book may talk about it. What we have just done. Hello, Jeremy. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have just started with the CSS. Yeah. And all that we are saying is that you have your HTML document and you want to start adding styles to it, right?
Okay.
So you put the styles in a separate file, and then you can now the whole syntax is select any of these elements and then apply the styling to it.
Okay.
Yeah. So
sorry for joining late.
No problem. So guys, I want to mention that we have element selection. You can do the selection by element name. You can also do the selection by the class name and then by ID. So right now on this page, what are the elements that we see here? We see the body, H1, H4, all of these are elements. So you can make a selection by calling the name of the element and then apply a style to it. That's one way of doing it, right? That is the element selection. Another way to do it is by selecting the class of the elements. So if I want to give a class to this div here, who knows how to do that? If I want to assign a class to this div, we know that there is an attribute called class, right? So it's an attribute, but how do I do it? How do I assign an attribute? The name of the attribute, then equal to, now you have to assign the value, right? So the way that class works is that just give it any name that you want, any name. Because that it's an identifier. You are trying to give it a name so that you can call it by name. So I can call this, say, tech. Any name that you want. So this div, everything, if I want to reference only this one here, I'm gonna call it by this name tag. So now that I have this, I can apply colors by using that name. So if you want to reference a paragraph, you don't do anything, just put the name of the tag. An element, just the name of the element. But if you want to select a class, you have to begin with a dot. So dot and then the name of the class, then everything else is the same, the body. So now I'm gonna say, instead of background, I'm gonna use color. Because color is one of the attributes. So color, I'm gonna use the colors, change this color to say yellow. So what I'm doing here is that I'm selecting only this div here, this element, because that is the only thing that has the name tech or the class tech assigned to it. Think of a class like a name, right? So if this color, this styling is only going to apply to this div. Okay, so let me save this. So on this page, can we all see that this div here, the content of this div is these two paragraphs here. They show up as paragraphs, but they're actually divs also. See, Lorem ipsum $. Lorem ipsum is simply dummy, something like this one. So now if I change the color to yellow, can you guys anticipate what's going to happen? It's going to change the color of the text in this container. Everything in this container, the color is going to change to yellow. So I saved it. Let's just refresh and see if that happens. So it may have happened, but we don't see it because of some of the color combinations. So let me change the background, the body color to something else. The background of the body, let me change it to say what color? So I can just use F. I'm gonna tell you what this means also. This one is white. I'll show you what that means later on. Let's flash back. One second. 1 second. Let me add 1, 2, 3.
Not safe.
Sorry?
It's not safe. You still have the yellow dots up there. So
okay, thank you. Something was blocking my view, so I couldn't see it. So I just removed it. Let's see if this also works. Yeah, this also works. So I'm changing the color to that. But why? So tech is this, and I'm changing everything in this to yellow. And surprisingly, that didn't work. A little concerned. Let me save this and see. Okay, let's change instead of color. Let's say
font.
So
Font.
You want to say font color? Actually, font color, I don't think that's it's an attribute, but see, you have font size, font family, but you don't really have font. Color should work, but somehow it's not working. We'll think about that later on. Let's use something that just worked. Let's use the background. See, that just worked. So we just change the background and see if that would work. Just say maybe.
But they basically do the same thing, right? The background and the color.
The background and the color will not do the same. Oh, so see, the statement was not complete. There was an error. You see, we don't see all the code that we are typing. That's the problem. What do you think is missing? Even here,
is it
the semicolon?
The semicolon, yeah.
Yeah, but up here too, we didn't put it and it worked. It was a little strange, but what's happening here? Yeah, here there is more problems. It's not just the semicolon. Okay, let's see if this will work now. I'm changing the background. And I think the other time we learned that we may not be able to change the background of a div just like that. So let's see if background color is a thing. Maybe for divs, this is how it works. Yeah. And that also didn't work. Oh, see, guys, can you see what is happening? You see that when we added the class, we didn't save it.
That's what I'm saying, that it's not saved.
So when you said it, see, this one also was not saved, this file. So I thought that's what you were talking about. So this also has to save. So we are making a selection that doesn't exist on the page. That's all that was happening. So now that we save it, there is a tag on the page, and let's see. Finally, things are starting to work. Now let me see. Well, now this one is the background color. It's not the color of this text. I want to change the color of the text. So that should be the color attribute. And we can change it to any color actually, but I'll change it to say blue. And if we save it and we come here and we just refresh. Yeah, see, that worked. So everything we're doing previously would have worked. It's just that we hadn't done the saving. So the point is that, guys, you can reference any element on this page by giving it a name, a class name, and then this is how you reference the class name. Now, you can also there's the ID attribute. All the elements have that, the ID attribute. And what the ID does, it's also this, it works similar to the class, but there is a very small difference. I will show you. So the ID, let's say mastery. I'm giving it an ID of mastery. Now let's see what the ID does. Now I save this one. If I want to make a selection by ID, I have to use the pound key and then the name of the ID, mastery. Then everything else is the same. Now you just have to specify, you now have to specify the attribute, the property and the value. So, okay, so I tried to copy this, it didn't copy, control copy. Okay, so I'm changing the color of the element with an ID of mastery to blue, the text of that element. So we can see that this is the element here. So let me save this and let's see what happens. So on this page, what is the first paragraph on this page? It is this one. It is this one. And I'm changing the text to blue. Currently the text color is all black. So let's save it and then refresh the page. And that happened. So as you can see, when we selected the paragraph, whatever design, whatever styling that you do is going to apply to all paragraphs on the page, all of them. But if you give one particular paragraph a specific ID, then the styling that you give to that is going to only apply to that only. It's going to apply to that element only, right? And the difference between this ID and the class, I did mention this before. Does anyone remember this? The difference between the class and the ID.
On the CSS class, you use dot. Why ID you use hash?
That's a good difference. Thank you. I like that. So that's one of them. Yes. So any other one? Okay, so the class, you can give the same class to different elements on the page, but the ID can only be given to one element on the page. So this ID has to be unique on the whole page, the whole web page. But the class, you can keep giving it to other elements, and the same color can just apply to them. So let me show you what I mean by that. Let me copy this. I can give it to the H4 element. Oh, sorry. Oh gosh. But let me just type. So this element, I'm giving it the same class. And as soon as I do this, what do you think is going to happen? The styling that we gave to this is going to apply to this also, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this ID has to be given to only one element. So let me see if I can do that. If I try to, let's just demonstrate this first. Save it, and then see. So H4 on the page, I think is this one here. And what styling did we give to text? Yeah, it's gonna change the text and then gonna give it a background color. Let's see if that works. Yeah. Yep, you see the same design that we gave, just apply to that. But now let me do the same thing to this element. I'm gonna use the ID. Let me assign the same ID to that element. I'm expecting an error to happen. Just copy. So H6 elements. Like that. I think I may have overcopied. Just want to copy this ID. Control C. Control V. Okay, now let's save this. It's not gonna work, or maybe it's gonna yell at us something. Let's see. So, so ID, surprisingly, this is working. That is not the use of an ID. Definitely not. Mastery, we gave the same ID. Why is it working? I think we should look into that, because the ID has to be unique. let's see. Let's debug it carefully and see what happened. Lauren Epson simply. This one. Lauren Epson simply. So it would work for the first element, and then the second one, I wouldn't expect it to work, but it's working. We have to look into that. IDs are supposed to be given to one element only. That is, it's a law actually. But over here, I can see that the law is not being obeyed, which is surprising. Okay, so that being said, we just went through all the selectors, different ways of selecting elements on the page. Let's keep going down the PDF. Maybe there's one more complicated concept that I want to mention today. And after that, I think we can be able to do a lot of things with this. So Amma just joined. Amma, so we are far into the, we've gone far into the class, but the video is always there. So we are just going through the CSS selectors, right? Selecting elements on this page and then applying colors to it. Okay, so let's go to the next. Sometimes my computer really slows down and I don't know. See, I'm actually moving forward and it's not moving. Okay, so let's have some practice over here. We just did. Yeah, that was another color here, another question. But the answer is right there. If you want to change the text of everything in the body, you want to change the text color to blue, how would you do it? Then he's saying that you do it through the body selector. So let's keep going down. We've done this exercise. Yeah, so H1, you can select H1, H2, apply styling to it. This list can grow to any length that you want. There are many different styling that you can apply. Oh gosh, see, this will not even combining elements. So here you can do multiple selections, right? If you want to apply the same styling to different elements, you can do this. You can do that. For instance, if I want to say, I want, say, H1 and all paragraphs. I want H1 and all paragraphs to have a background of blue. That's how you do it. So you can just use comma and select as many things as you want, right? As many elements as you want. You can keep adding the body. You're just selecting different elements, and then all the styles that you specify here will just apply to them. So it's just an information, right? That is not that complicated. So paragraphs like that. Okay. So, one second. Let's keep going. Nothing here is new. We've seen this. I just talked about all this. That's why. So he's just giving a class to this element, and then he's referencing the class over here, and then specifying a color to it. We went through this, so but I'm gonna share this with you. You can practice the stuff. So he's gonna talk about the ID selector, which we just talked about. So you see the ID has to be unique, he said, unique number, which we just saw that it's not happening for us. It's interesting. The key thing here is the pound key. So guys, we need to have this foundational knowledge about CSS, right, before we start using it. So don't get bored. Try to understand this. Just keep in mind, an element can belong to more than one class by putting spaces between the class names. So that's what he's saying. That you can select multiple elements by putting commas between them in the selector. But what is an element can belong to more than one class? Yeah. So what that means is that, see, this div, we gave it a class called tech. We can give it another class here called web. I'm so bad at naming things. So if you want to give another class to this same div, you just put a space between them. So now with this, you can make another selection. So it is an ID, it is a class, so it's gonna go with a that. Then you can add other designs here, say background. We are just using what we are familiar with, okay? We could use some URL, but we are not there yet, so, but maybe I can. Let me give it a try to scare you guys a little bit. So where we are, I think dot images folder. Let's just add some image here. Images folder slash say this. Save this. See if this works. So now something is also blocking my view, so I don't know if they've been saved or not. So this one has been saved, but you know, the web is not saved. So we need to make sure it's saved. Now let's go into the browser. I'm hoping that it works. Let me take out this and see something. I mean, all this syntax we're gonna see anyway, so why do we jump ahead? There's no need. 1 second. So this one can be say background. Let's see something. Background image. Let's see if this is how it is done. And then this. Okay. Maybe this will work. So it's not pointing to the to it properly, or maybe this syntax is incorrect or something. We'll take a look at this later on when we get to it. I wanted to change the background image of this div. Where's the div? Guys, see, something is not right. See, the whole div is missing. When the computer is slow like that, you type something and then it's doing something else. Let me try to go back and see. So this is what it should be. This whole thing was missing. Okay, so let's save it. I mean, this space, I don't think it's relevant. So I'll leave it. Let's see if that works. So the color blue, where is the color blue coming from? Is this is the image, I think. Is the image. Because this div, have you selected any divs? Or maybe the car. Yeah, so I think that's the image at the back there. But you don't see it because the space is too small for it. Let's do some more specification. I want to say let's specify the height to be say 250 pixels. And I'll just leave the width like that. Say this. Let's see. Yeah, you see. Oh man. So things are working, but because the space was too small, the height of the element was too small, we couldn't see the image. So what I did was I'm changing the background image to this. We already have this locally, so you can do a lot of things, guys. It's not just the colors, but the point is that we are this class, any element that I give this class to is going to have this design. That's the point. So I mean, at this point, we can bring back the tech. Let's put the tech back. I don't think it should change anything. just so that you know that we are assigning two classes to the same element. Let's see that. What? Yeah, it worked, right? So that is possible. That's what it is saying. Okay, let's keep going down. You can see this one is almost done here. So he's talking about the structure of things on the web page. You know, the fact that everything is a box. I think this is a very important thing. Like, really, I want us to talk about this today. Let me see what he's saying. So when you go to the web page, everything that you see there is like a box, right? Everything you see there is a box. Even if it's a paragraph, it is going to be a box on the page. If it's a heading, it's going to be a box. A div is going to be a box. So that is what we call the box model, the box model. And we are going to look at that. If you understand the box model, you know, it's going to be very easy for you to style a page. But actually what this person is saying is that always think about the structure of things on the page, the way things are structured on the page. So like over here, you can see, you see, this is just, what is the name of this? An ordered list, right? Unordered list, actually, because we have bulletin. If it is ordered, you're going to have numbers 1, 2, 3. So this is a list over here. So this whole list belongs to one box. That's the way you have to look at it. And then this thing here, this is a text, it's a heading. It's a heading. And this is, it could be an anchor tag. It could be a button, but mostly this is an anchor tag. But you see there is a div around it. If you put all of this into a div, so the div will create a nice box for everything here, like we've done here. See, this is a box, this is a box, and then we have put this div around it. So it gives us a nice structure so that these things are not isolated anymore. We can look at them in isolation. We can look at them in isolation if we want. But as soon as we put all of them in one div, then they also belong to the same box. And then we can assign design at the div level, and it would apply to all of it, everything that is inside it. So always think about things on the page. Look at the structure of the page. The structure of the page is very, very important. So like you can see over here, let me see if he demonstrated. So the structure of the body would be like everything here. Everything here would be in the body. Sometimes some of them will be in the header. Some can be in the footer. But if you look at it in the context of our code, you can see the body, you wrap the whole body around everything in here. So the structure of the page is going to be like a very big box, and then all the other elements will be in it. And then we're going to have another box around inside the body, because we are also grouping this also. So always, you know, I hope you guys understand this, but it's kind of useful when you're doing the designing on the page, right? It's purposely for the design of the page, you know, because sometimes you just want to assign a certain styling only to these people and not this, you know. So if you have all of them grouped in a div, then it's easy for you to do that. So that's the concept over here. So we can use the div to divide, you know, create sections on the page, you know, specify the class of the div. But once if you put all of this in a div, it's important to give it a class name or an ID so that you can reference it for your styling, right? If you don't give it an ID, then it didn't make sense to group them. Yeah. So now let's keep going. That's the point he's making there. You know, it's the same way, you know, I wish we can have his code here, but you can think of the whole of this in one div, in a div element, and then you can think of this in another div element. And he's saying is that if you put the two of them in a div, in one div, like we've done here, you put this and this in a div like this. Now you have a box around the two of them. It's almost like the two of them are in the same container, right? But these divs, you know, you can think of them as a container also. So the same here, you have an isolated element. It could be any type of element. Another isolated element. Let's say div, 2 divs. Then if you put all of them in one div, then they all belong to the same container. Then you can do whatever you want to do with it. So, you know, the div is useful, very, very important, you know, and essentially that's what he's saying. Now the concept of inheritance is very, very, very crucial. The concept of inheritance. So now let me mention something. You can see that we have this div over here, this div, and inside it we have these elements. So what is happening is the outer div here, you're gonna call it the parent of the divs that are inside it, the parent. So according to this div, the ones inside it are called the children of the outer div. So the concept of inheritance is that if you give any design to the parent, it will automatically it will trickle down to the children also. That is the point. So like any design that we give to the body will inevitably trickle down to everything here, because the body is the parent of everything in here. So can you guys see any parent-child relationship on this page that you can mention? I've actually mentioned 2 of them. So let me make it simple. I can say that the body is the parent of H1 tag. So, and then over here, I can say this div, if I want to call this, I have to use the ID here. The div with an ID of that. I mean, with a class of web is the parent of. So it's important to also identify the divs inside here too. For now, I just want to identify them by an ID, so we can call them by name. So I'll call this, oh, sorry. See these names, you can give them any name. Div1. And then I'm going to identify this one to ID. Div2. So now we can say, we can also give this one an ID. A div can have a class and an ID at the same time. So I'll say pdiv. So guys, let's see. What I want us to do a little exercise, right? I want you guys to make a statement like this, a valid statement like this, right? Say, I'm saying that the body is the parent of H1. And the same statement I can say, H1 is a child of the body tag. Can you guys make other similar relationships in this manner for me? Anybody at all can go. Parent-child relationship. Parent-child relationship. See, if you visit a typical website, you're going to have a lot of relationships. Like in this div, you're going to have a lot of other divs inside it, and then other elements will come. So many dependencies are there. So, anybody want to try? Let's save this. You can see the body is wrapped around everything here, right? This is the body tag. Within it, we have all this. So we say that the body is the parent, and everything inside it is a child. It's its children, right? Anything here is a child. Anything is a child. Each of these are children of that.
So with the head, the link would be a child?
The header file, the link tag is a child. Perfect. Very good. Very, very good.
I think Ibrahim is saying something. But he said body.
Oh, sorry, the head.
Yeah, I'm trying to type, but
I saw that.
it. Yes.
Yeah, so Alfie is saying to the head, the link is a child, right? The link tag, yeah. It's a child. Head.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So would that mean that everything within the wrapped in the HTML, would everything inside that be considered a child to the HTML?
Perfecto. Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is the parent to everything in it. Yeah, perfect. So if you assign any styling to the HTML, it's going to trickle down on everything inside. That's what we call inheritance. But is anybody trying more? Can you guys? So this is a very powerful catch. Yeah, this is the grandparent, right? Really I mean, according to this Dave, maybe this is the grandparent because this Dave's parent is here and then the parent's parent, like something like that. Okay, so we can keep moving. So this footer, has it got any children?
No.
No.
It has no children. That's right. Okay. Now, the next important point that we need to remember. See, let's say we are considering this body. We are saying that the color of the body should be blue. What this is going to do is everything inside the body, any text at all, is going to change to blue. Now, if you come into the child level, say H1 here, and then you set the color of this H1 to another thing, say red. The one that is going to take precedence is the child. Whatever color you give at the child level will always override whatever that you give at the parent level. Right? So that's a key thing that we need to know. That is what we call cascading. And this is where the cascading is coming in. There are so many designs on the page, but some of them have higher precedence over the other, right? And if you set something at the parent level and you override that same property at the child level, the child will take precedence. I'll go back, nothing has changed. So it's just I need to demonstrate this to you guys, but I'm hoping that you get it. Oh, see, there's a grandparent also, right? Child, mom, and dad. So I intend to ask too many questions, but can somebody see child, parent, grandparent relationship here? I did mention this, right? I gave the answer.
Yes.
Can you try, please?
Is HTML, body, and H1.
And H1, yeah, bingo, that's beautiful. Perfect. And which one is the grandparent?
It can be HTML, body, div, and div.
HTML,
div1,
body, and div.
Div, and this div. Yeah.
Yeah, this one is like 4 hierarchies in here, right? 4 hierarchies. So the child also has a child like that. So you can see the hierarchies on the page. Okay. Let's see. So that is the end of this one here. It's all right. So what is important that we need to remember about the hierarchy is what I said. Any design that you give at the body level, if you override it in a child level, the child one is going to take precedence. Okay. Now, I want to also mention a few things. Right now, since we started, we are using the external style sheet to write CSS code in our application. This is not the only way to do it. So this is an external file. You put all your code in here and then you link to it and then you can use it. There is another way of doing it. Actually, we have 3 different ways of doing it. So I'm going to show you the second way. And then I'll show you the third way. Then we talk about which one is more, which one takes precedence over what. So another way to do it within the head tag here, you can just open the style element. You know. Now it's an element. We'll have the opening and the closing. So this is the style element. Within this element, you can put all of your CSS in here. For instance, you can say, I have a lot of colors now, so something tells me to just comment everything out on this page so that it's going to be like we have no colors, literally. You know, let me just comment out everything here so that we can start afresh. As you know, the way you comment out, I did mention it in the past, just that. Because it turned out that this one cannot go above a comment. So there's a comment over here, so it cannot, you know, you cannot include a comment within a comment. So you comment from here, and then you end this one here. And then you can also, you start another comment here, you end it here. Why do we need comments? Why do we need to comment our code, guys?
To document, let's say somebody else goes in.
Yeah,
they can
Mhm.
they can see, they can understand what's going on without it interrupting the code.
Yeah, if somebody comes here, they look at your comment, they can understand what is going on without reading the code. Because figuring out what is going on by reading the code is harder than just reading the text, right? And it's not just somebody. If you come back to a code that you've written today, if you come back to that same code next week, it's very, very likely that you're gonna forget what the code is doing. So instead of cracking your brain to do all that, you read the little comment that you put on top and then you're good. So now if I save this, there is no styling anywhere. All the stylings are gone. See, there's no styling. We are back to, you know, square one, because everything in here is a comment. The code is going to ignore. But we can put our styles in here. So let me just you can just copy them. The same thing that you are putting in the external file, you can put the same thing in the header section also. So we just copy and paste it, or you can type it from scratch. So even the formatting is the same. So my computer is really slow again. Right, we'll make it. Okay. Yeah, so today there is no IntelliPath class happening, so we just want to keep going until maybe we can do 2 hours today, guys. And then we can start this weekend, you know, there's no class. So yeah, I just copy the same code and put here. I have the style there. And of course, it's gonna do the same thing, right? It's gonna change the background of this div to the image. Let's see that. Let's see that, just refresh that. And it still worked, right? So that's another way of doing the styling. Let's add another style over there. Let's select all paragraphs. Just copying the code, select all paragraphs. And just want to format the code well, so that it's readable. So what is this going to do? Hey guys, today you're not talking. What is this code going to do?
Make the background red.
The background of what?
Of the flag.
What flag? This?
Sorry, this this blue background will change to red.
This one here, this element.
Yes.
Please, why are you saying that? How?
Oh, sorry.
Uh-huh. So you can come again, right? We just added this code here, this new CSS style. And what is it going to do to this document that we have? That's all I'm saying. Anybody? What do you understand by this statement here? What do you think this is doing? Do you want me to tell you?
Yes, please.
Okay, well, let me just execute. Thank you for answering. I'm gonna execute the code, and then we see what happens, and then you can tell me why that happened. Maybe that can also help. Yeah, so this is what happened, right? We've seen these two elements changing to red. Something about it is changing, and it's the background, right? Why is this happening? Can you guys explain that now? So, like, it turns out I have to be asking the questions, right? Because I said this at the beginning. So, and I thought you all understood it. So,
because of the paragraph. It's taking the paragraph part.
can you explain what this statement means here? This whole line, what does it mean? What does it do? Remember the syntax, right? Yes, the syntax.
Yeah. So the syntax, the
selector, right?
Yes.
So the first thing you do, select what you want to change, what you want to add a style into. If I say what, I'm talking about the content, what element, right?
Right.
Remember, we have
the element that you're pointing to is in line 20 and 21.
Yeah, because I'm pointing to all paragraphs, right?
Oh, yeah.
And what am I changing about those paragraphs?
The background.
And I'm changing it to red. So you can see that that's exactly what happened, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the point.
All right, I'm not on my laptop today. I'm on my phone, so
it's hard to see it. I understand.
Yeah.
So do you guys all understand this? Because that is crucial. So I'm gonna add one more style. You can tell me what you think is going to do. So I'm saying H6. Okay, no, I don't want to make it that easy. Let me select this, and I'm gonna assign. Oh yeah, so of course it's an ID, so I need to put. Actually, IDs is not the dot, it's the hash or the pound key. It's very easy to mix these things up. So now, what do I want to change here? Let me change. So font, and see if there's anything about font. Font size, I'm gonna change font size to 50 pixels. So guys, who can tell me what this is going to do to this code? Remember, these are styling, right? You are just styling the document.
So since you identify it as mastery, we're going to look at line 23 and 24.
I wanted somebody else to say this one.
Oh, sorry.
If that's okay.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, the font of line 20, 23 and 24 is going to change to 58 PC.
Yeah. Again, I feel it shouldn't be like that. We mentioned the ID has to be unique, but unfortunately, it looks like it's not unique. Let's see. So I gotta save this. Nice. I mean, if you want to save it, you can always go to File and then click on Save also. That also saves it. Now, we just refresh that. And as we said, the font size has changed to something bigger, right? Okay, so the point I want to make is this is one way of doing the styling, right, to a document. The last way, the other way you can do it, which is the last way of doing it, there are 3 ways of doing it. You can do it at the element level. So at the element level, you guys remember that style is one of the attributes, right, of an HTML element. You guys remember this is one of the attributes? Because this is one of the attributes, you can just use it. Once you call the style attribute, now you can put any code that you want in there, any CSS code. Any CSS code. And here it's exactly the same as the code that we are writing here. Exactly the same. So here I'm just going to change the color. What should I change it to? Say blue. So that this is going to work. Let me add the same style to say which element? div1. Div1 is already too dark in there. Yeah, let me add it to div1 and add a style here. And then I'm gonna change the color to something that would be visible, say red. Red. Okay. So now I'm gonna save it. You know, after we understand these basics, guys, we can be able to design a page. We can do a lot of things, guys. So now let me just execute this. I mean, you know, another way of doing it is, you know, just coming here and then refreshing the page. So let me just kind of do that. Refresh that. Okay, so for this one here, you can see I'm changing the color to red, and that's exactly what happened. And for the H1 tag, which is this one here, I'm changing the color to blue, and that's exactly what happened. So the point is, I'm doing the styling at 3 different levels, right? Now, the weaknesses of this is what I'm about to mention. If you put the styling in a different file, like we did at the beginning, all we had to do was to link the file to this page, and we could use it. Now, you can also link the same file to other pages also. If you have other HTML pages, you can, all you have to do is to just link this, to put this line of code at the heading of that document, and then you can use all the styling in here. You can assign this IDs, you can assign these classes to your elements, right? As soon as if you already have a design for a class, you can just keep using it. You can keep reusing it. You can just, if I want to use the same design for any other element on this page, let me just add a div here for example. You just put one div at the top. Put one div at the top. Say div, put one div here. Okay, so for this div, if I want to, I can just keep reusing the class, right? I already have the design put in place. I just have to specify the name. I can keep reusing it. Whatever that is affecting the styling that is happening here is going to happen here too. Let me just save it. So this, we're going to see a new element at the top there with the background image and everything. Yep. No, that's what we just did, right? So if you have the class, you just keep reusing it. Anywhere that you want to use it, you use it. But the way you do it, if the styling is in an external file, you have to make sure that you are linking the page to that file. That's all you have to do. However, if you are putting your style in this way, in the header section of the file, there is no way you can use it in another page. If you want to use this in another page, you have to repeat the code, write the whole code again. So because of this, this style is frowned upon. Like we don't want to write a CSS code this way. You can see the limitations, right? You won't be able to reuse the components. And if we do the styling at the element level, this one too has a weakness because it can slow the page down. It has a way of slowing down the page in a way, depending on what kind of styling that you're doing. If you're doing complicated styling at the element level, the page is going to be slow. So because of that, this approach is also not recommended. But yeah, this approach is not recommended because of that. And another weakness is that if you put your styling over here, you cannot use it in other pages also, on other pages also. Right, so it has the same weaknesses as doing it here. So guys, the best way to do it is always just put it up there. But there's something called a precedence, right? The cascading style sheet, cascading. So now if you put some of the styling on this page, on an external page, and then you override those styles in here, the styles that you put over here is going to get high precedence. So this one is going to override whatever that you put in the external file. Right? Because in other words, the external file is like a parent to this one. So if you put a styling at the child level, that takes priority. And then if you put a styling at the element level here, which is the child level, like this is the deepest you can go. Any style that you put at this level is going to override any other styling on the page. And you have to remember that even the page itself, the HTML, it also has some default stylings that are built into it, right? It has some default stylings. So any other styling that you do, you are kind of overriding what's already there, the default properties and all of that. So, I mean, these are important concepts that we just have to know. Like if a style is very, very important to you and you don't want it to be overridden by any other style, I mean, I think that you would want to put it down here. Because even if I look at industries, we have stylings that are put at the element level also. So it is frowned upon, but people still do it. Developers are still doing it. But that is the surest way, the surest way to make sure that whatever styling that you are given is going to always happen. Of course, to demonstrate this, let me just show you something very quick. I'm going to put this style in the external file. Guys, we are almost getting to the end of today's class. The things that I wanted to mention. Actually, there are two key things, two other important stuff that I wish to mention. I hope to get there. Then after I mention them, I think tomorrow we're gonna just speed through the class. But most of the concepts you would have seen already. See, I'm trying to make this window bigger, but computer is slow, so I'm having difficulty. You see this web? What is this? It's a class, right? And I'm setting the image to this image that we just pointed to. I'm gonna change the image now from here. Okay, so we are familiar with this image, so I'll leave it there. But in here, I'm going to change it to a different image. Then we're gonna see which one is going to eventually happen on the page. So now let me just put a slash. See, because the computer is a little bit slow, you see, I'm just selecting the second image down here. I'm gonna save this web. instead of this image, the new image is going to take precedence. And by saying precedence, that's gonna override whatever style that we have in here. So let's see, let me just demonstrate that. I gotta save this also first, right? Just save. Okay, now I'm gonna refresh this page. And you can see a different image is coming, right? Instead of the one that we are setting up here. That is because the styling that we are putting in the header is overriding the one that we are putting in the external file. It turned out that this is not always the case. It depends on the way the place where you put this link file. If you want whatever that is in the external CSS file to take precedence, you have to put this link below the style. Put it down here. But the way the code works is that the program is going to start from the top. So it's going to read all of this first, and then it will now go to the external file. So in this case, whatever that is in this is going to override whatever that we put up here. So let's save this and see. I hope you guys understand what I'm doing, right? I'm just changing the precedence. It's like first come, first serve. That's what's happening here. Okay, so now let me refresh this, and instead of this image, we should now see the other one. Boom. You see? So all of these are going to become if you don't have understanding of these things, you're gonna be doing some styling and then they won't show up and you won't know how to debug, right? And you know, majority of coding is about debugging. Debugging is there's a bug in the code and you want to find out the reason for that bug, right? And these are the little things that make a huge difference, right? But maybe you shouldn't worry too much because we're gonna be doing projects. We're gonna be designing web pages, complicated web pages. So you're gonna have a chance to practice all this. But make sure you are getting the concepts. I'm trying to cover the foundational knowledge. If you have the understanding of the foundational knowledge, guys, you can write you're gonna be a star, man, right? Because you know what you're doing. You're gonna do the programming with understanding. If you're doing it without understanding, you can copy the code and use it, but you don't know what is happening. And that is so frustrating, guys. It's so frustrating just because we don't understand the underlying principle. Okay, so this point, I believe we have driven this point home. Now, very, very, very important concept I want to talk about. As I have two more things. So this is the next one, the box model. I just want to introduce it to you, right? Because we are selecting attributes, right? These attributes, background, image, height. There are many attributes that we can use, but again, we need to have this concept deep down in us, the concept of the box model. So all that there is that any element that you see on a page, web page, think of it like a box. Think of it as a box, right? The element is a box. Like everything you see here is an element and it is a box. And I'm going to show you how the box model works. So this is also an element. It is also a box. Everything on the page is a box, right? And the content of the page, right? The content here is always the innermost part of the box, right? It's the innermost part of the box. But there's something called border. Like if you want to put borders around an element, a border, we probably have heard about this before, right? Mostly I think of this like a football park that they have fenced, you know, you have fences around it. So the fences are going to be a border. Oh yeah, so even you see this line on this page, this is a border. Let me go down. One second. I wanted to make this bigger, but again, you can see computer is pretty slow, right? So the idea of putting borders around your document in Word, right? This is a border. So in HTML also, you can put a border around an element. So, but there has to be the content first. The content is always here. Then the border is also there. See, the computer is doing what it wants at this point, right? I'm not able to control it. I'll just give it a few seconds. Yeah, I'm not able to control it. I'll give it a few seconds. Oh gosh, see. I'm not able to control it. Let me just. So some of the things is doing, I kind of executed a long time ago. It's 100%. See, go down. So what I'm saying is that every element on the page has a content, and the content is always in the middle. You have to have this box in your mind all the time. And I'll show you by going into the dev tools, the way this works also. We're gonna inspect the code, under the hood. And then there's a border. You can put a border around the element. So this is the border section of the box. So there's a space that is dedicated to the border. And then between the border and then the content, there's a padding. So we always use padding, but we don't know what we are doing. When you're using the padding, you are just increasing the space between the border and the content of the element. And then there is the last piece of the box is called a margin. So the margin is what? The space outside the border section of the box. So if you want to, these are attributes, right? If you want to specify the margin of an element, you are just, you specify a distance, right? So it could be pixels, it could be, there are different units in CSS. It's one of the things that I thought that we could get to today. So units in CSS, and then colors, how to select colors, and then the box model. These are the main fundamental things that we still have to cover. So the margin here is a space outside the border. So if you have two elements on the page, if you want to put some spaces between the two elements, you have to use the margin, right? But the margin is the distance from this element to any other element, right? So whatever you specify, that is the spacing between the elements. And then if you're using the padding, you are setting the padding. It has nothing to do with outside the element. It's everything to do with the space between the border and the content. Let's just demonstrate it, right? And now let's see. You can see that the margin goes around the box, right? That's what we call it, the box model. This space is all around the element. And then look at the padding. There's padding all around it. The border is all around it. So if you just want to reference this part of the margin, we call it the margin top, the margin top. And then if you want to reference the space at the bottom, that is the margin bottom. The property, the name of the property is the margin bottom. And then the padding also, so the top and the bottom. So this is the right section. And then this is the left section. So left margin, right margin, margin top. Margin, I think margin left, margin right, margin top, margin bottom. It is the same for the padding also. Padding top. Sometimes you just want to put a space at the top here. As part of your designing, you just want to put a large space at the top here. You don't care about the rest of the place. You just specify margin, padding top, and then and if you want the bottom, so yeah, and then the border. But as you're doing that, you have to have this box in your mind that if I'm calling the margin, then I want to put a space between the elements. I want my element to be farther away from whatever elements are next to it, whatever. And if I'm using the padding, then it's just inside. You're gonna see it. So the three most important things, the four most important properties for the box model: the border, the margin, the content, and the padding. So guess what? The content is always taken care of by the HTML. But of course, you can increase the font size of the content. That's a different concept. But as far as this box model is concerned, you are always thinking about the padding, the margin, and the border. And you know, and you use that in your styling, right? If you just say paragraph, like I said, every element has this box around it. So any element is a box. So you have a paragraph, you want to specify the padding of the paragraph. So this is what's going to happen, right? It's just, first of all, you already specifying the border. This is the way you specify, you set the border property. By default, there is no border, but you can set it. So I want the border, the width of the border to be 20 pixels. And then solid means that you want the lines to, you want it to be a solid line. But you can also make it, you can change the style of the line. You can make it dash or that different styling. That's what we have this. And then you specify the color. You want the color to be red. So that's how you set the border. And then the padding, you can see he's setting the padding as 25 pixels. And what is happening is that you can see that the content of the box there's a bigger space between the content and the border. So this 25 pixel is giving you more space here. And because you just said padding and you didn't say padding top, bottom, left or right, it's going to apply this to every side of the padding, every side of the box within the padding location, right? So, and then, you know, of course, the background color, we all know what it is. So the background color here to light blue. So the width is just, you know, this is the width. And then he's also setting the margin. Actually, the margin, you don't see it, but at least the margin would be the space between this and this element. See this, what element is this one here? It is an H1. Oh, actually, see, we can see the whole code, right? So this is just a paragraph here. And by using this style, this is what we have. I wish I could copy this to demonstrate it, but it's also straightforward, actually. I don't even have to copy it to demonstrate, but I think we need to do some illustration of some kind. But the box model, you don't want to forget it. You should always have that picture, guys, please. And of course, the border, you can specify the border color. So I think we've almost been here for 2 hours, guys, but I would wrap up very soon. So the border color, as I said, border you can have the bottom, the top, the right, and the left, right? Just specify the colors. These are all properties that we can use. They are attributes in HTML, but in CSS, we call them properties. They're properties. But when if you want to enter border bottom, you have to know what you are doing. That I'm talking about the bottom of the space between my content and the border, right? That's all I'm saying. And if you really get a good understanding of this concept, well, you do CSS with confidence, man. So the border width, there are different, all these properties are there that goes with the border. You know, as you can see, right? The border section, you can specify the width of the border. Then how thick it is, the thickness of it. It can be in pixels, percentage. I don't know if we can get to that today, but it was one of the key things I wanted to mention. That. So, you know, the padding, margin, top, left, bottom, right, I talked about it. When you are using it, just know in your mind that this is the section of the document that I'm referencing. So let's just do a quick demo of this, and then we might have to end it there. Then tomorrow we'll just do the 2 other important concepts, and then we can start with the projects that I showed at the beginning. See, even now also, my computer is slowing down. I just want to give a quick demo of this, guys, and then we will just end it here. There are 2 other important concepts, but they're very, very simple concepts, right? Selecting the colors. We've been selecting colors, but I will show you other ways of selecting the colors. And then the unit, we've been using the pixels only. I'm going to show you the other type of units that we have. Oh, and then the display property. Display properties is also very important. We'll cover that tomorrow. Also, God willing. Okay, so the box model, I'm just thinking whether to create a new file or we can just use what we already have. Yeah, let's just look at this code and just work with it. Yeah, let's just keep adding to this. Mostly the code looks like it's too much for you guys to digest because I should have kept cleaning it up and then just retyping everything again from scratch. Just focus on the concept at hand. But that would take a lot of time also. But I don't know. If only this computer would catch up with me. Okay. So I'm just adding more styles here. That's all I'm doing. Put more space here. So, like I said, every element on the page is a box, so we can pick any one of them. Which one should we even pick? Should we pick the div? For the divs, they already have a lot of things in them, but let's pick the div. It's all right. Let's pick the div element. So I'm selecting, what I'm doing is I'm selecting all the divs on this page. So this red line, you don't know why it shows up. You put a space over there, but you didn't type anything. That's why. But you just have to delete the space, that's all. 1, 2, that's one. So what I'm doing here, I'm selecting all the divs on this page, and then let's apply some styling to it. Okay, so we already know the background color, I don't want to set it. We already have it set. Oh, gosh. You know what? I don't know if we can really see it, but let's just go straight to the pattern. Let's just go straight to the pattern. It's a box, so it has a pattern. So let's set the pattern now. You can set it to anything. I want to make it visible, so let me set it to 70 pixels, something bigger that we can see. And I'm also gonna set the border. Let's set the border. So see, I'm typing, but it's taking a while to show up. So again, when you're typing the border, you have to specify the width of the border. So let me make it very big. I'm just overdoing everything, guys. Then you put a space. You said that, do you want this to be a solid line or you want it to be a dashed line? Let me see if we can use a dash. I'm hoping that it will suggest it to me. So I can just say dashed. It's just a different style of the border. Then now you have to specify the color. So let's use red. It could be any color, but let's use red. Oh, really? Okay. So we can close this. Let's see what's going to happen with this code. We just execute it and see what's going to happen. Okay, so that is saved. Let's go over here. View in browser. Okay, nice. Can we see what is happening here? You can sorry, this is kind of reconnecting. Let me clear some of these windows. That kind of stuff. Yep, guys, this is what we have just created. This is what we just created. We are picking all the divs on the page. So there are many divs on the page. You can see even these are divs also. These are all divs. Can you see how ugly it is? So let's do something that makes sense, okay? Let me give an ID to this div. Let's just use one of the divs. okay, instead of all of them. But is this not beautiful? We are just using the box model, guys. Everything rests on the box model. It's one of the most important concepts. I mean, if not the most important. So let's just give this an ID. Unique field. The computer will speed up, guys. I'm so sorry for that. So let me just say, I'm thinking of what to use now. Student, just say student. So I'm giving it an ID of student. Now I can, if I want to select only this day, right? What would I do? I know most of you won't talk, so you can at least think about it in your head. That's fine. So because it is an ID, it has to begin with a pound key. Yeah, and then that. Now, if we save this, the style is going to just apply to this, guys. This one can save your life in an industry, man. The designers, they've given you the design. You have to know how to design it, right? That's all. So let's just refresh the page. Okay, so all the other divs are okay. It's just this one. So we can enhance this code. You can see the border. You see here the content. The content is this. It's very short. Let's make the content bigger. Let's make the content pretty big now. As you guys know, I just have to use Lorem Ipsum, or Ipsum. Oh gosh. The computer responds very late after I type. I just want to make it like 55. Then hit enter. So we have all that text in there. Save it. Then just refresh. You want to separate the content. So yeah, that's our content over there. Also, instead of the background image, I want to remove the background image so we can see things better. So let's just say I'm just thinking because I have to comment this out also. Let me comment this out. Gosh, the computer is so slow, guys. I cannot believe it. See, I'm cutting this and it's taking forever. See, I'm just adding this to the content, to the comments. Paste it. Now everything there is a comment. Now let me take out this image. Okay. Well, I think let me take it. It's all right. Let's take it off. Let's take it off. I don't want to take this off. I mean, we could just apply the styling to the student only, but yeah, I think it's better. Let's just remove this word from here. That's the best way. Let's remove this class, right? Because this class is what is giving it the style, the background image. We don't want it. So let's just remove it. See, it's just taking long. That's all, guys. So we save this. Now the background image is supposed to go. And let me just specify a color. Say background. Let's specify a color, say, what color? So pink. Pink, say light green, light gray is better. Pink is probably better. So light. Yeah, light gray maybe is good. See, it's just taking too long. My computer is not responding on time, guys. I'm so sorry for that. Okay, so let's save this. Again, I'm saving it. Now let's just refresh. Yeah, so the other divs will have that style, the styling we did before, but now we have this background. Okay, good. So you can see that there is no space between this and this. There is a space, but it's the default one. It's not a lot, so we can increase that. What do we have to use? Is the margin. What is the margin? So if I want to put more space, I'll see, I'm already typing, but the computer is so backward. Margin. I don't want to just put it at the bottom. I want to put it all around it. So I'll just specify one time, say 80 pixels. It's a big space, 80 pixels. Save it. Oh gosh, you would not believe it, how slow the computer has become. Okay, you can see what's happening now, right? See, all this big space, that's the margin. If you are setting the margin, that's what you're doing, right? Okay. We're gonna be finishing soon, guys. I just want to finish this concept, that's all. We have the margin, we have the border, we have the padding. That's all there is to it, right? So we can enhance this in so many different ways. You know, this border, there are many different designs you can use, but let me just use solid over here. I don't want it dashed, I want to make it solid. Then we look at the dev tools. You guys will see what's happening there. Then I'll leave it alone. Oh my goodness, this computer really wants us to end now. Okay. Remember, the middle property is just the way you want the line to look like. Normally, you just use solid. And you don't want this to be very big. Most companies want it to be like 1 pixel. Very, very small border. You know, if you want to design something beautiful, you mostly don't want this to be very big. So again, I'm saving it, but it's taking eternity to happen. Why don't I just close this whole thing? It might help us. Although we are ending, close all tabs. Yeah, okay. So see, even the closing of the tabs, it's taking eternity. Okay, and this one too. So whatever concepts that we are looking at today, guys, I want to encourage you to study them tonight. You know, try to get a firm understanding of these box models, CSS selectors. That's pretty much all we talked about, right? The precedence, you know, using external CSS file and, you know, writing your styles in the head versus in the elements itself. Just practice them, you know. So now that this is saved, let's see if it will let me refresh this page. Yeah, now I believe I can refresh it. And yep, so now I'm going to show you DevTools. Let's see what is actually happening under the hood. You'll see the box model at the back of the browser. That's the last thing I want to show. This one is so slow, guys. It's unbelievable. I mean, you could set the bottom, the left, the right, you know. You can set any property that you want. but think about a box model. That's going to tell you how your page is going to change based on whatever property that you are setting. So just gonna show you the last piece of the puzzle as far as box model is concerned. Of course, we can do a lot of practice on this, but you can do that also at home. You cannot do CSS without knowing these things, the box model concept, right? A lot of people do CSS without knowing that, right? They just copy the code and use it. But if you have to make any change to that code, you're gonna suffer, man. You're gonna suffer because you don't know what you are changing. You are changing the pattern, but you don't have an idea of what you're doing, right? So you're just doing trial and error. You can do things that way too. I've done that also in the past. I'll be changing styles and I didn't know what I was doing. And I'll keep trying until it works, right? Because it's gonna work eventually. But something that should take you like 5 minutes will take you the whole day. But you don't know something that you should know. So guys, I hope this has opened up. I just want to show you something here, the box model. The computer is a disappointment, guys. But you can see what is happening here. If you click on this, it allows you to step on elements on the page. So I'm stepping on this element, and at the back, mostly if you go to computed, that's where you will see this box model computed. So you can see that the paragraph, if the content of this element, this is the height, I think the width is 763 and then the height is 72. But look at the pattern. The pattern is 70 pixels. That's what we set, right? We set the pattern to be 70 pixels. And then look at the border. We set the border width to be 40. So it is showing it here like this. And then the margin, right? We set the margin to be 80. So that's that. And we set it around the whole element. We didn't just set it to the top of it. All we had to do was to say margin top. But we just said margin. So every side of the element has a margin of 80. And you see, as I step through it, it is selecting, it's highlighting the part of the page that I'm looking at the back. This is the way you do a lot of debugging, right? And so essentially, this is all there is to the box model. You can see this is the life cycle of an element as far as CSS is concerned, right? If you want to design the element and you have these bugs in your mind, guys, you can do a lot with it, right? And, you know, if I ask you to tell me the height of this element right now, the way you do it, you have to add the height of the content plus the height of the padding. So the padding top, padding bottom. So you add 140 plus 70, 210. And then you also add the height. So actually, as far as the border is concerned, it's going to be the width, right? It's actually the height, but it's the width, which is 40. The width of the border is 40 at the top and 40 at the bottom. So if you add all of this, that is going to be the height of the element. And there's a way to tell them that, no, if I talk about the height of the element, just give me the height of the content. There's a way to specify that in the CSS. I will show you that when we start doing the projects, probably tomorrow, maybe. Yeah, so that being said, guys, do you have any questions for me?
No. No.
No questions? Okay, so you know why you have to know the box model? The answer is simple. To do CSS, you have to have certain understanding. There are certain things that have to be in your understanding, and the box model is one of them. That is why you have to learn the box model. Why did we have to learn the things that will, the selectors? You have to know how to select an element if you want to do any design of a web page, right? So like I said, there are a few more concepts that we need to have, and I'm hoping that tomorrow we can finish it within the first half of the class, and then we can start looking at the projects that I brought up at the beginning. Okay, so that being said, I want to thank all of you for coming, and the class has lasted for just about 2 hours, right? Because we started late. We started around 11:10. So 2 hours of class, as you can tell, I don't think it's that bad. But on Sunday, we cannot do 2 hours now, but people have to go to church, as you know. So Sunday, which is tomorrow, is going to be like an hour, 15 minutes. It cannot be more than that. So let's keep that in mind. Thank you so much, guys.